Hey guys! Today we're going to be reading this book called Matisse's Garden. This book is going to inspire us for this week's home learning. One day, the artist Henry Matisse cut a small bird from a piece of white paper. It was a simple shape, but he liked the way it looked and didn't want to throw it out. So he pinned it on the wall of his apartment to cover up a stain. And as you can see, this book has also been created by cut pieces of paper. You can see here, this detail's been added by scoring into it and creating line by using cuts. Here, you've got some overlaps. Remembering overlapping means to go on top. The bird seemed lonely by itself, so Matisse cut out more shapes, which joined the bird on the wall. You can see here some lovely organic and abstract shapes that we don't have names for, that don't exist. Splats. As he cut after the shape from the white paper, he thought about a trip he'd taken many years before to the island of Tahiti. The shapes looked like the birds, fish and seaweed that he'd seen there. So you might want to think about using your view or using your experience of a holiday or where we live in Hong Kong to influence and make your shapes be inspired by what you can see. As his scissors glided through the paper, he thought about how a bird must feel when it flies. As he cut, Matisse felt like he, too, was flying. Ooh, look at that. Some lovely shapes here of birds. Soon, his walls were covered with plant and animal shapes. They captured the feeling of soaring and the sensation of swimming, but they didn't convey the bright blue of the sky or the deep blue of the sea. So he made a new work, and this time pinning his white forms to blue sheets, painted azure and marine blue. And this is one of Matisse's artwork. So what he did is he painted sheets of paper just like you did, and then he put his forms, his shapes on top. And you can see how he was definitely inspired by his lovely holiday in Tahiti. Got some lovely reef-like shapes here and some fish. Not perfectly cut, but definitely giving us the vibe of that holiday, that experience that he had. And we've got another one here of birds soaring. When he saw how the colour brought his shapes to life, he asked his assistants to paint sheets of paper in ranges of shades from vermilion to lemon to violet. Instead of using only white paper, he decided he would make his shapes by cutting directly into the colour, which is what we're going to do with the paper that you've made from last week. He tried a pink leaf against a background of orange and a green leaf against a background of black. He cut leaves from other hues and set them against backgrounds of every shade, experimenting with different harmonies and contrasts, the way colours played with and against each other. And using your knowledge of our colour wheel, you might be able to think about that when you're doing your design for your collage. You might want to think about your complementary colours, or just experiment with layering different colours on top and seeing which ones you like the best. What counts most with colours are relationships, Matisse thought, and that means how colours work together. And you can see here that he really experimented with his colours. Henry Matisse was very famous for doing this shape. Matisse cut and cut. The leftover paper fell to the floor. He realised that every shape he cut created another shape, So instead of throwing away the leftover pieces, he added them to the composition. They weren't leftovers at all. So you might want to think about the pieces that you cut out that you would normally throw in the bin. You might want to use those or change them slightly in your collage as well. Here's another one of his pieces, and you can see that this piece has come from this piece. If you put them together a bit like a jigsaw, but they actually create a new shape that probably you wouldn't be able to cut. Sometimes the shapes he cut were simple, like squares. But when he arranged them in just the right way, they took flight, like a swarm of bees. And here we go. Even the simplest of shapes can make us think of different things, which is what he said here, like a swarm of bees or flies here. He composed his shapes to show familiar scenes, like women in a room, like a woman in a room with a vase of flowers. Really beautiful shapes here, and again you can see where he's cut it out. He turned familiar objects into simple forms, which he then composed into patterns, form being the whole shape. It's the word we use for the whole shape. A form of a cup here. Quite tricky. And amazing, amazing, amazing. Here you can see that there is texture inside, which is a little bit similar to yours. And he used repeats as well. His cutout started very small and got larger and then larger and as large as a wall, until they stretched across the walls of his studio, curving around corners and covering doors. And there's Matisse in his paper garden. Matisse realised happily, I have made a little garden around me where I can walk. And here is one of Matisse's very famous cutouts. We call them the cutouts because that is what he did with his pieces of paper. He has done also paintings before, but towards the end of his career, he did his cutouts. And this is a huge wall. As for his garden, Matisse cut a small bird from a piece of blue paper. And there we are. And as you can see in this book, it gives us lots of information about the real cutouts that he did. So, what you're going to do this week is you're going to grab your sketchbook and your beautiful collage pieces that we made, and you are going to draw with scissors. So, you can choose one page or you can go for a double page spread. You might even be like Henry Matisse and go over many. But what I want you to do is I do not want you to use the pencil. No pencils allowed. So you are going to create shapes that you are using from your imagination, that you can create from your imagination, inspired by things you've seen on holiday or outside or in your room, or maybe you're just going to take your scissors for a walk, but you are not going to draw the shape first. What I don't want to see is you drawing and cutting out. What I would love you to do is to use your scissors to chomp slowly, so into the back of the mouth, chomping slowly and moving the paper and not the scissors to create your shape. What you don't want to do is hear this sound. We don't want to hear that. You want to go inside again, chomp slowly and move your paper slowly to create your shape. Go back inside, move the paper right to the back of the mouth, chomping very slowly to create your shape. And there you have it. A shape. You can name your shapes if you like. What I want you to do is I'd like you to cut out your shapes first, and then you can arrange them on your page. We call that a composition, which is a word that we heard in the book. Now, I actually really love Henry Matisse's fabulous idea of using shapes that have been created from cutting out as well. So you can also do that. So reminding you again, You can also do very simple shapes. So if you just want a square, that is fine, or a rectangle, or a shape that you already know, you can do that too. So try and cut straight lines, wiggly lines, and also different lines. And I want you to, remembering that word, overlap and arrange them on the paper, thinking about colours. Just like Henri Matisse said, it's the relationship that the colours have with each other that are so important. Now also think about how you can contrast straight lines with curvy lines. And if you don't like it so much, you can edit your shape by cutting back into it. So slowly chomping from the back of the scissors and out. So I've now created this lovely shape, but I've also got this left over, so I might decide that could go in there. I don't want you to create a picture. I don't want it to look like anything. We're using that buzzword of abstract, so I don't want you to create a picture that necessarily looks like anything. If it starts to look like something as you're arranging your shapes, that is fine. But to start with, I want you to just have a nice time cutting, drawing with your scissors to create shape and then to arrange them on your paper. Now, Henri Matisse liked to do repeat shapes as well. You can repeat your shape. Be very careful. Cut two pieces that are similar, place them on top of each other, and then you can create the same shape twice. Oof, this is a great leftover piece that I might decide to overlap here and overlap here. Thinking about my colours, I've got green, which if I looked at my colour wheel, I know its complementary colour is red. So I'm actually going to place this red part with my green part here like this. Now, don't over egg your page too much. Think about where things look good together, but don't have too much white space. When you're happy with your composition, you can then use your glue to stick it down. I've just chosen to do a yellow one here. Intercept that there like that. Be careful with your scissors, take your time. Overlap your pieces. I'm actually going to be inspired now by Hong Kong and its brilliant plants that we have in Hong Kong. So I'm going to kind of do a very Henri Matisse style. I would love for you to have a go at trying to create this shape. So you go in, move the paper, you're chomping down on the paper very slowly, you're moving the paper, turn, 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 move the paper, turn, turn. Oh, this is becoming to look a bit like a hand. Lovely. So there we go. To make that look a little bit more like a plant, I think I'm going to create its stem. Somewhere like this. So, this is at the minute still a little bit unfinished, but I'm going to persevere, I'm going to carry on, I'm going to use some of the cutouts. Wow, what a great shape here. And have a go at overlapping some of my shapes. If you would like to then, with the space that you have left, if you don't want it white, you can always use your oil pastels to fill in some spaces. So, as if by magic, I am going to finish this and show you the final artwork. Good luck, have fun, and remember, just use your scissors. Good practice will make you a really good chomper. Enjoy!